With the NHL draft in the rearview mirror, it is time to look to NHL free agency as it opens up tomorrow, July 1st. In this episode of Locked on Hurricanes, we will talk about the Hurricanes free agency, potential targets for them, and just give our final thoughts and predictions on the NHL free agency pool as a whole this year.
You're Locked on Hurricanes, your daily podcast on the Carolina Hurricanes. Part of the Locked on Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey there, Caniacs. I'm your host, Jared Ellis, and you're listening to Locked on Hurricanes on the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by the folks over at eBay Motors. A championship team is about each player being a perfect fit. Same with your vehicle. So for the parts that fit, head to eBay Motors and look for the green check. Stay in the game with eBay Guaranteed Fit, ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available for U.S. customers. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. And as always, I am joined by my co-host, Andrew Schnittker. How are you doing on this Friday afternoon, Andrew?
I'm doing great. It's free agency eve. I think things are about to start happening. Some things might happen today. Some things are almost certainly going to happen tomorrow. It's a good time to be a hockey fan. It's a good time to be a Hurricanes fan.
Yes, it is. And I am pulling up the Hurricanes free agency article that he put out this morning. And today, with being the thing of qualifying offers to restricted free agents are due by 5 p.m. It did say, it did come out yesterday that the Hurricanes were not going to extend a qualifying offer to Jesper Fast. We kind of figured that much, so he will become a UFA. So, that is what it is there. That's really not a surprise to either of us. And then 7 p.m. tonight is when RFAs is the deadline for when RFAs can be tendered an offer sheet. Don't really see the Hurricanes doing that this year, but the Hurricanes RFAs are Dominic Bach, Dylan Coghlan, Stelio Matthews, and Jesse Puljujarvi.
I don't think any of those are going to get a qualifying offer, to be honest.
I really don't think any of those guys are going to get qualifying offers. So especially Dylan Coghlan, we kind of knew that pretty early on in the season that he wasn't going to get one. If he was even here, I think we were both kind of surprised that he never got moved. But the UFAs, the Hurricanes have a lot of them in their system between the NHL and the AHL. So we are going to have to quickly fly through all of these names. We have Frederik Andersen, Calvin DeHaan, Jack Duggan, Ryan Dzingel, Jesper Fast, Kevin Fitzgerald, Jake Gardiner, Shane Gostisbehere, Andre Kasha, Max Lazoie, William Lagesson, totally butchered that, Mackenzie McEachern, Max Pacioretty, Antti Raanta, Zach Sawchenko, Paul Stastny, Derek Stepan, and Malte Stromwall. We have, a lot of guys in free agency this year. And we've talked about some of these guys already. Of guys, we could see extensions being offered. Guys, we think, they're pretty much going to be gone. And honestly, a lot of those guys, I think, they're probably going to be gone, with really the only ones that I see sticking around being Frederik Andersen and maybe with Paul Stastny and or Derek Stepan. Everyone else there, I pretty much see walking. Shane Gostisbehere, it's already came out that he's going to be testing free agency. Andre Kasha, he played one game for the Hurricanes this year. We've kind of talked before. Does he retire? Does he continue to try to play? Does he go play over in Europe? Jake Gardiner, we definitely think, he's probably just going to retire. He hasn't played in 2 seasons. And that's what I'm thinking with a lot of these guys. Max Pacioretty, he's one that just with his injuries, I don't know if the Hurricanes would be willing to risk it for him. If he did get one from the Hurricanes, and frankly, really anyone, I think it's going to be a very low risk deal, low term, low salary.
So we have breaking Hurricanes news as we are recording this episode. Regarding Hurricanes pending UFAs. This from Elliot Friedman. Hearing Jesper Fast will return to the Carolina Hurricanes. Good player, good fit there. I think this is fantastic news for the Hurricanes. We talked about this yesterday, or was it? I think it was Wednesday.
Yes,
that he was potentially going to be a sought after player in free agency, and could he get more term than the Hurricanes could offer? But I like this. I think he's been a really good fit next to Jordan Staal on that shutdown line. He's a really good two-way winger, really good teammate, great penalty killer, big role on that penalty kill that's been so good.
Mm-hmm.
Good for some secondary scoring, scored some big goals in the playoffs. I like this a lot for the Hurricanes. Obviously, we have yet to see any kind of terms, but looks like Jesper Fast will be back on the ice at PNC Arena next season. A fan favorite player. That is really good news.
Yes, that is fantastic news. So we can scratch him off the list there. But aside from him, Andrew, and obviously Frederik Andersen, you figure he'll be back as well. Are there any names that stick out to you there that maybe the Hurricanes should potentially try to keep, or just let them walk?
There's nobody other than I was gonna say I would have said Jesper Fast, but looks like that's happening. Obviously, Frederik Andersen has got to be, especially now that they've got Jesper Fast done. Frederik Andersen has got to be priority number one right now. I think we've both talked about bringing him back, being the best option in terms of bringing back a goalie partner for Pyotr Kochetkov for next season for a lot of reasons. Again, we have gone over all of that in previous episodes, so you guys can check that out because we do have a lot to get to today. But other than him, no, I mean, I don't really think so. I don't really see Stepan or Stastny being back. I mean, maybe, like last year, they signed Stastny late in the offseason. They signed Stepan to a PTO shortly before camp. So, I mean, if they get to that point in the offseason and they need a couple more forwards again, they could always bring them back. But I'd almost rather see those spots in the bottom six left open for guys like Vasily Ponomarev and Jamieson Reese to try to earn spots with the Hurricanes next year. Max Lajoie is a guy I would maybe look at bringing back just because he's always played well when the Hurricanes have needed to call him up. So, he's a good depth defenseman to have in the organization, but he's not like top priority. Like, I'm not like, right, oh my gosh, they have to get Max Lajoie done like before free agency opens tomorrow. So other than Frederik Andersen, who I really think you probably want to get done before the market opens, just in case something weird happens, I don't think the Hurricanes have a lot more to do in that regard in terms of their guys who are about to immediately be free agents.
Right. Yeah, that's definitely what I'm thinking as well. Because they're pretty well set on the NHL side of things for right now, and the guys that are coming to the end of their contracts, they're guys that you can part with. We've kind of talked about Calvin DeHaan before in previous episodes of him being a guy that you get a little ways into free agency, you haven't been able to fill that spot on the third pairing, whether it be through free agency or trade, then bringing him back again on another 1-year deal. But yeah, Frederik Andersen, he's the big one. Jesper Fast, it looks like it's already happening. Max Lajoie being a guy definitely needed to keep in your system for sure. Mackenzie McEachern, he's another guy that just in the system, I think, he could be good to keep around. But yeah, it's again just one of those where it's kind of like, oh, if they get the right deal done, then sure. But it's not really gonna bother me, if they decide to just let him move on to somewhere else,
Yeah, I agree.
And obviously, the Hurricanes do have, a good amount of free agents to choose from on the market, and as well as some potential trades to make at the 11th hour. And we will talk about those and what they could potentially be right after this quick break, folks. Now, folks, it is important to take care of yourself, and you can do that with our next partner, AG1, the daily foundational nutritional supplement that supports whole body health. We've talked about AG1 a lot here on the show in the past, and AG1 is a foundational nutritional supplement that delivers comprehensive nutrients to support whole body health, because taking care of yourself is one of the most important things you can do. AG1 replaces your multivitamin, probiotic, and more in just one simple drinkable habit. It's a science-driven formula of vitamins, probiotics, and whole food source nutrients. AG1 is raising the standard for quality in the supplement category. AG1 helps you build your health foundation first. And if a comprehensive solution is what you need from your supplement routine, then try AG1 and get a free 1 year supply of vitamin D and 5 free AG1 travel packs with your first purchase. Go to drinkag1.com/NHL network. That's drinkag1.com/NHL network. Check it out, folks. You got to take care of yourself. And now diving back on into potential free agent targets and trades for the Hurricanes, I do have the free agency tracker over here on my other screen. And for guys that the Hurricanes could potentially go after. Obviously, there's some big names up here. Guys that we grew up watching: Patrick Kane, Jonathan Taves, Oliver Ekman-Larsson, Vladimir Tarasenko. You got those guys up there as well. We touched on Kane and Taves before. Maybe 10 years ago, sure, but just nowadays, just not now. They're well past their prime, and I just kind of feel like it would be taking up a spot, and you'd probably be overpaying for those guys simply because of their name value. Ekman Larson being a guy, he just did not pan out well in Vancouver, as opposed to what he did in Arizona and how he was so great down there. But and he obviously got bought out by the Canucks. Ryan O'Reilly, he's an interesting one. I honestly think he may end up staying in Toronto. I don't know. But Max Pacioretty, he's a guy that's kind of up here high on the list. We've already talked about him. And are there any free agents that stick out to you, Andrew, that you would want the Hurricanes to go after as I scroll through here?
Yeah, Tyler Bertuzzi is one that I think would be a really good potential target for the Hurricanes. Came out yesterday that he is going to test free agency. Went from the Boston Bruins to the Detroit Red Wings, or from the Detroit Red Wings to the Boston Bruins at the trade deadline this past year. Had kind of a rough season, 8 goals, 30 points in 50 games. I think he missed a lot of time because he broke like both of his hands at different point in the season. Should be healthy now. When he's been healthy, he's been a really nice goal-scoring power winger. You look at 2021-22 with Detroit, 30 goals, 62 points in 68 games, top 20 goals each in 18-19 and 19-20. Worth noting, he hasn't ever played 82 games, so staying healthy might be a little bit of an issue. But if you get the best healthy version of Tyler Bertuzzi, I think he's a really good potential pickup for the Hurricanes that would fit in well in their top 6. I think, again, plays with a little bit of an edge to him. I think a guy Rod Brind'amour would really like. If you're looking for goal scoring from the wing, Jason Zucker scored 27 goals for the Penguins last year. Alex Killorn, 27 goals for the Lightning. He's about to be 34, so getting a little bit up there in age, so I'd certainly be careful with term with him. Vladimir Tarasenko, a guy the Hurricanes have liked in the past when he's been linked to in the past when he's been in trade rumors from St. Louis. 18 goals, 50 points last year, 69 games split between the Blues and Rangers. So maybe he's an option. So, you hear about sometimes there being a dearth of options in free agency, but if the Hurricanes are willing to spend a little bit, and they are going to have quite a bit of cap space. Now, again, they have to be careful with the kind of term they add because the extension's coming past this year. But, they could potentially go after a big splash in free agency if they want, or they could make a trade. Because remember last year, I mean, they actually made their two big trades for Brent Burns and Max Pacioretty on opening day of free agency.
Yep, I agree there. I like all of those potential names there, and I think that they're all options. The Hurricanes do have the space, the cap space to do something like that. It was also put out earlier that Blake Wheeler from Winnipeg is likely going to be getting bought out, so he will be on the market as well. So he's another guy that'll be out there also. And we've talked about trades before with Alex DeBrincat and Elias Lindholm kind of being our 1A, 1B for guys that we'd like the Hurricanes to go after because like you just said, the Hurricanes big moves that they made last season were through trades, Brent Burns and Max Pacioretty. And that's obviously something that could happen at any moment. Could be something that also happens as we're recording, like the Jesper Fast news. So at the end of the day, do you see them being more likely to do something via trade or doing something on the free agency market?
Trade's probably more likely just because that's the route they've tended to go in terms of making their big moves. You look at Brent Burns, you look at Max Pacioretty, you look in season at guys like Brady Shea and Vincent Trocheck. Now, that's not to say they couldn't make a splash on the free agent market. I'm looking at a story from Chris Johnston, who does he work for now? TSN, a couple of the other outlets up there in Canada has said that the Hurricanes are one of the teams expected to show interest in Vladimir Tarasenko, who I just talked about. So that could be a potential. But like I said, if I had to put odds on what's more likely, I would say a trade just because that's the route they've tended to go. You look at a guy like Elias Lindholm on the trade market, there's been some speculation from Adam Gold and I think from some others that the Hurricanes might try to upgrade at the second line center spot. However, they don't want to, I don't think they want to give up Jesper Kotkaniemi. I think they just want to bring in somebody else and have him install, kind of splitting those roles in the bottom six. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, they have the cap space that they could do both. I mean, they could trade for a Lindholm and they could sign a winger and make, some really big upgrades at forward going into next season while they have this window, while they have this cap space. I don't think that's super likely, but it's within the realm of things that they have the ability to do.
Yeah, it is. And we've talked about the other day that the Hurricanes tend to like to play the money ball strategy when it comes to signing guys. And it could be a thing of, they make their big splashes, say Tarasenko and Lindholm, say those are their two big splashes. And then they use that money ball strategy to kind of fill out the rest of the roster, whether it be more depth guys or bringing guys up from the AHL or whatever it may be. I could definitely see them doing something like that because you do also need your star players as well. And it's gonna be very interesting because Alex DeBrincat sort of starting to look like Detroit for him. We've been seeing a lot of rumors, between those two teams, Ottawa and Detroit. So Lindholm, he's definitely looking more and more likely for the Hurricanes, and I think that's definitely one that you and I want to see. And those have been the two that we've talked about the most, and guys have since been moved. Since we talked about trade targets for the Hurricanes last, are there any other guys that have since kind of popped up on your radar, Andrew?
Not yet. I mean, Tyler Toffoli and Riley Smith, obviously both going. Those are guys I would have liked. The other thing that's interesting, you talk about using an approach to fill out the rest of the roster if they make these splashes. It's the Hurricanes can pretty much use their cap space for next year on splashes because it's not like they have to spend a bunch just to fill out the roster. They
Mhm.
currently have 10 forwards, 5 defensemen. Obviously, they need another goalie. That's the big one. But even if you say that, they bring back Frederick Anderson at 4 to 5 million, and they do bring back Tony DeAngelo at 2.5 million for that last defenseman spot. You still got like roughly 14 million to play with. So I think Elias Lindholm's cap hit right now is still under 5 million, I think.
I think so. Let's look and see. But yeah, they definitely have room to play with, and it's gonna be fun to see what the Hurricanes end up deciding to do. And I think that his salary is 4.85 right now. So, and he's 28 years old. So it'll be interesting to see what they would decide to do there, because regardless of where he goes, he's probably going to want a sizable raise, and would that be one that the Hurricanes are willing to give? Because of, like we've said, so many contracts coming up here in the next couple seasons. But yeah, it's going to be very, very interesting. And we have been seeing guys, or teams, excuse me, really loading up. New Jersey being one in particular that has started loading up. And we will give our final free agency thoughts and predictions for the Hurricanes and NHL as a whole, or right after this quick break. All right, folks, we're back. And, you know, we've talked a lot about Elias Lindholm and kind of how we want him to come back to the Hurricanes. And then, with that, he's likely going to want an extension with decent term, pretty good salary as well. We just talked about, how he's making 4.85 million right now. So he'll probably want, an 8 year, a long term deal wherever he resigns, whether it be the Hurricanes or whoever else. But a team in the Metro that has really been loading up over the past few days has been the New Jersey Devils. How much of a threat are they now?
I think they're an extreme threat. I mean, you look at their top 9 now. They've locked in Timo Meyer. They've got Tyler Toffoli added to that group that already includes guys like Jack Hughes, Nico Hischier, Jesper Bratt. I mean, I could keep going. You've got Dougie Hamilton on the blue line. Little bit of uncertainty in net. We'll see if that Akira Schmid guy ends up being, their guy going forward. But yeah, I think the Devils are a true contender for next season. And I don't know. I mean, right now, before the Hurricanes make a significant move, I might have to call the Devils the early Metro favorite. Again, very, very early in the offseason.
Yeah, very early again. Trade or free agency hasn't even opened up yet. But yeah, you look at what they're doing right now, and yeah, it's definitely going to be one where I feel like the Hurricanes have to do something. And you know they gotta, whether it be trade, free agency, they're going to have to really make significant additions. And Jesper Fast, being one we already talked about, his extension. And do we have contract terms on that yet?
Looks like we do. This is from, again, Chris Johnston of TSN. With them working through the final details, it's expected to be a 2-year deal in the 2.4 million AAV range. That's a slight range from what he was making on his first contract. I think that's a really, really good deal for the Hurricanes. Again, you lock in a guy who's been a really good fit next to Jordan Stahl on your shutdown line, gives you secondary scoring, gives you two-way play, gives you penalty killing. I think this is an example of Jesper Fast probably taking a bit of a discount to stay with the Hurricanes in a
Hmm.
place that he likes, because I think he could have gotten more than this on the open market, both in terms of term
100%.
and money. I really do.
100%. I definitely think that he took a discount to stay here because, like we talked about with Jordan Stahl, when we were kind of wondering what was going to happen there. Guys want to play on winning teams. You're on a team that is right there already, and the system you're in, the guys in that locker room. And this isn't the Hurricanes, from 7 years ago, where free agency comes up and they're like, "All right, see ya." This isn't that anymore. Guys are willing to come here, and the guys are here. They're willing to take less money than they could have fetched on the open market. But steering back, to free agency as a whole, I definitely think, with the way the Devils are loading up, the Hurricanes, they gotta make a splash. Because it not taking away anything from the guys that are already on the roster, Andrei Svechnikov, Sebastian Aho, Marty Necas, not taking away anything from those guys by any means. We all know how good they are, but it does feel like the Hurricanes need to beef up their roster a bit more since the Devils are doing so much this offseason already.
Yeah, I agree. I think if you're the Hurricanes, you definitely got to be looking to add at least one guy who can give you a boost in the goal scoring department. You're in your window of contention, and you do have to be looking. You'll hear Dom Waddell say, you don't want to be pressured into being reactionary, making a move just to make a move. But I think you do have to look at what the other contenders around you are doing and be trying to make your team better as well. Because, like I said, I think the Devils have gotten significantly better since the end of this. I mean, again, Tyler Toffoli, like you're adding a guy who scored 30 goals last year to your top six for really not much. I mean, that's a big deal.
Yeah, it is, and the Hurricanes, they definitely need to they're gonna have to do something, and I'm confident that they will, because like we've said, in previous episodes, they've started to make splashes now. Where again, like 7 years ago, nothing would ever happen, and now like the Dougie Hamilton trade, they got him, Brent Burns, Max Pacioretty, they're making moves now. So I'm confident that they will do something. It's just gonna kind of be what they end up doing. And we just got another news that really doesn't make sense. We kind of talked about this one at the start of the episode with the restricted free agents, but now the Hurricanes have qualified Dylan Coghlan. Why?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you need defensive depth. Maybe they think he plays in the AHL somewhere next year. Maybe they want him to have as a potential throw in on a trade. Doesn't make a ton of sense to me. They are not qualifying Puljujarvi, Bach, or Matheos. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. That's all I got. Here's the other interesting one. You talked already about Blake Wheeler getting bought out. Talk about the Hurricanes potentially looking for an upgrade at the number 2 center spot. Nashville is buying out Matt Duchene.
What?
Understandably so, I think, from their perspective, because he was still on a pretty big contract. But like you look at Duchene, this past season, he had 22 goals and 56 points, 43 goals and 86 points a year ago. A guy, if you can remember, back when Colorado was first trading him, it seemed like every offseason for years, it was like the Hurricanes should look at Matt Duchene. The Hurricanes should, Justin Falk for Matt Duchene, Noah Hannafin for Matt Duchene. Like, he's a guy I would add to my list of potential free agent targets for the Hurricanes.
Yeah, definitely, especially if they can get him back to that 40. What'd you say? 43. Yeah, 43 goals. Get him back there. Oh man, the Hurricanes would love that. And you imagine that in your centers, Aho, Duchene, Kotkaniemi, Stahl. Oh man, that would be freaking awesome if the Hurricanes could pull that off. And that would definitely be one. It would be interesting. How old is Matt Duchene now?
So he is
Because
he's
term
30.
and
He's only 32.
it's only
So say
32.
he's bought out. Say you get him on a relatively short term deal. Kind of let him try to prove it in your system, chase a ring. Now I think he's a guy who's going to have a lot of suitors. So I don't know how cheap they could get him, but he's a guy I'd be looking at for sure.
Yeah. I would definitely be looking at Matt Duchene for sure. If the Hurricanes could get him, that would be a significant upgrade, especially like if they couldn't get a deal done with Calgary to get Elias Lindholm. Like if they couldn't do that, then okay, let's go for Duchene, because those calls have been happening already. Even if we don't have confirmation, they've been on the phone talking, trying to get Elias Lindholm. But yeah, this is stuff, where we're just seeing, just as we keep going and going with this episode, more and more stuff is coming out. And tomorrow evening, we will do an episode talking about day one of free agency, what the Hurricanes did, what they didn't do, trades, signings, all of that stuff. We will talk about that tomorrow. So make sure you're following the show along at LO_Hurricanes on Twitter, and myself on Twitter at Jared Ellis _96, and Andrew on Twitter at ASchnitt53. And Andrew, are there any more breaking news before we wrap things up today?
No, but I'm sure there will be just an avalanche as soon as we stop recording this.
Oh yeah, probably. And like I said, we'll talk more about stuff tomorrow. So make sure you guys are tuned in tomorrow. And as always, let's go Canes.